Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for joining me today. This is Spiguyver Backpacking. I'm Spiguyver. I'm out here today for a special video. This is another collaboration video. So this one is a little bit different. It's got more players involved. I sat down with Devin from Backcountry Exposure and we were trying to come up with a good idea for a collaboration video since we've had a couple in the past that haven't gone quite as we wanted them to. So we sat down, we came up with an idea, and we've come up with a list of people to involve. We have Tim Watson, we have Adam from Restless Outdoors, we've got Lance from Outland, we've got Bob from Up Trail 71, we've got Andy and Kevin from Shill Brothers Outdoors, we've got Corbin from Wasatch Gear. We'll all be putting together our own individual Backcountry Masterchef videos. That's what I'm out here to do today. This one's gonna be a little bit challenging, so why don't you guys come along? Let's do this. Let's go. Okay, so for this video, one of the things that I'm doing differently is I'm gonna show, especially in an environment like this, that an alcohol stove can be used to do more than just boil water. So what I've done is I've brought out with me my Batch Stoves 12 cm baking kit, and I've assembled a kit of ingredients. Now, what's different about this kit of ingredients than some other ones I've done and shown when I've been out camping is that this is adequate for backpacking. So let's zoom in, take a quick look at what I've got in this bag. Okay, so like I said, I really wanted to do something a little bit different than what everyone else is doing out there. So I brought out my bake kit, and what I'll be using for a stove for this one is going to be my Mini Bull Design Turbo Gnome with the simmer ring. I will fill this up all the way to the turbo holes. If I pull the simmer ring off, you guys can see the turbo holes there. All the way up to the turbo holes, and that should give me about 20 to 30 minutes of burn time. Now, with it being a little bit colder out here, I'm not only gonna use the regular windscreen slash pot stand that I use, the Toaks titanium one that breaks down, but I'm also gonna use a windscreen around it to trap in a little bit more heat. Now, this is gonna be definitely a test, definitely a challenge to see if it's gonna produce enough heat to keep the heat inside of this pot high enough to bake. So what I'm baking today is going to be a mini pizza, a mini pepperoni pizza, because what's a pizza without pepperoni? What I've assembled here are my ingredients to get this done. This whole setup will do probably 2, maybe 3 pizzas, because I've got quite a bit in here. And so it consists of a special blend of pizza dough that I will add a 1/2 cup of warm water to in order to get that one going. I have the only thing in here that's not a dry ingredient is the pepperoni. I cut up quite a bit of pepperoni, got this in here. I like pepperoni, I like a lot of pepperoni, so I've got that. Now, what makes this really something that can be used as backpacking, now I will take sticks of pepperoni out on the trail with me, so that's something that is completely feasible for me to already have. I have a little bit of Crisco to line my pan with. Then I have, from Packet Gourmet, some dehydrated tomato powder, which when mixed with a little bit of water becomes a great paste and a great sauce. And I also have dehydrated, or actually freeze-dried, mozzarella cheese. So what I'm gonna do to get started is I'm gonna add water to these dry ingredients. I'm going to get some water going to put in my actual dough, warm water to put in there, and I'm gonna get this thing going, and I'll come back and show you guys once I've got these things rehydrated and I start getting to the point where I can assemble these. Okay, I have my stove set up right over there. I've got some warm water in here. I'm just gonna knead this until it becomes pretty doughy, and hope that I didn't add too much water. It called for, given on the weight of stuff that I had in here, it called for a 1/2 cup of water, which is what I put in here. But it is feeling like it's pretty wet, but that's okay. What we'll do is we'll keep kneading it. I can still see some dry spots in there. We'll get it to a consistency I can spread out in my pot. I've got my Crisco actually in my pocket so it stays nice and pliable and warm, and I can put that in there. So I'm gonna keep, yeah, it's hardening up pretty well right now. So this is becoming just what I want it to be. What I'll do is finish getting this ready and then bring you in nice and close. We'll assemble this thing. The cheese has some water in with it right now, so it's got to sit for a little bit longer. I've got the sauce made up right here, so it's all reconstituted, ready to go. Just need to get the cheese a little bit better, and we'll get the dough into the pan and get this thing ready to go. So like I said, it's set up over there. I also brought out the BSR titanium, just a little MSR canister stove or canister over here to go with it. And I brought out some of the Wild Zora tea, the mango tea. So I'm gonna, while this is going, I'm gonna lounge in this hammock. I've got the 0 degree incubator on here. This is the trail layer by Simply Light Designs. And so I'm testing this one out, trying it out. This is actually Chris's. And so while this is going, it's going to take 20 to 30 minutes, well, about 30 minutes to get this thing where it needs to be. Possibly a little bit longer today with it being a little bit cold out. So we will play it by ear and get this thing where it needs to be. All right, so several of the components I've been keeping in my pockets just to keep warm. I've had my gloves on, but now it's time for me to take the gloves off, pull some of this stuff out, and start assembling what we've got. So we've got the actual baking dish. It goes inside of the pot with this baking ring down in the bottom. So that baking ring goes down in the bottom, gives a spacer so air can circulate all the way around. And this is the baking dish. So I'm gonna line this with Crisco, which I've kept nice and warm in my pocket. Even if it gets pretty cold, it still stays pretty flexible. I'm gonna try and not get my hands dirty, so I'm gonna use the bag turned inside out, just kind of spread it on using that. Probably more than enough in there, but I'd rather have it not stick than stick. A little bit on my hands, but not bad. So turn that around, toss it inside of this other bag that I've got out here that I kept everything in. Now the weight of this entire thing that I brought out here, like I said, it will make probably 3 little pizzas, probably 4 or 5 inch pizzas, something like that, maybe a little bit smaller, and maybe more than that. It's quite a bit that I actually brought out here, so you know, I've got a lot that I can play with. But the total weight for everything I brought out is about 13 ounces, so not a ton of weight, really. So in order to keep my hands from getting too messy, I'm going to bite the corner. You could cut the corner if you had a knife. I didn't bring a knife out here. So I'm gonna bite the corner off of this and kind of squirt it into the bottom. Do like a little rotating pattern. That's the idea anyway. But I'm gonna get it in there, spread it out. If you get a little bit of water on your hands, you can spread it out really well. And that's what I'm planning on doing here, just to get it in there. And then we will put the sauce on. I'll throw a little bit of pepperoni on. I'll put the cheese on. I'll put a little bit more pepperoni on. We'll get this thing going and see what we come up with. So let's do this. Just bite the corner off, put it in my little trash bag over there. I'm gonna place this between my knees. All right, so the spiral pattern is not gonna work too well. It didn't come out of there quite the way I was hoping it would. And I've probably got enough dough in there right now that that's all I need for this. So I'm gonna set that aside for right this second. Kind of tap this down a little bit, get a little bit of water here for my hand, just to put on my fingers. Now, this is not the best way. I mean, you know, I'm not an expert at this by any means. And this is looking pretty thick. I'm probably going to pull actually a little bit of this out of here. And I will set it back into this bag. Let me open this up. And you can play around with it, add, take out, do whatever you need to do to get it where you want it for your pizza. I'm going to try and do a pretty decent job here of getting this in here, getting it spread out. Relatively even thickness all the way around, up onto the sidewalls, so I get a little bit of a crust going on. That's looking halfway decent right there. So I've got it in there, kind of spread along the bottom. Good enough for me for right now. So I'm going to use a little bit of water. I know it's a little cold out, but rinse my hands off. Still snowing a little bit out here this morning, which is kind of cool, kind of nice. Mix this up just a little bit more. And same thing I did with the other one. I'm just going to bite the corner of it off. Put that in my little trash bag. Hold this between my knees again. Just kind of squirt some in here. I like a good amount of sauce in mine. I'm going to spread that out pretty evenly around in there. Get it up onto the sides a little bit. So I've got good amounts in there. Good coverage. All right. So there you go. That's in there. I said I was going to sprinkle a little bit of pepperoni on there. You can never have too much pepperoni. So pepperoni under, and then pepperoni over. So pepperoni's in there now. I've got the cheese in my pocket. It has been sitting there rehydrating, so it's now, you can see it's a lot more full, a lot more in there. And so I'm just gonna grab some of this mozzarella, sprinkle it on top. Like a good amount of cheese in there. So you can see I put the cheese in there. So I've got the cheese going. And now, like I said, a little more pepperoni, because I like the pepperonis. Okay, so there we have it. That is my version of the pizza. So let's see if we can cook this thing up. I've got the ring in there, drop that in, and it's just that simple. Throw the top on. It's got a little bail handle I can hold. So I'm gonna get this stove fueled up, fired up, get this on there, and we'll come back and see whether or not an alcohol stove in a windy, cold environment can bake us a pizza in the backcountry. Let's see. So right now I've got the stove going. I've got everything sitting there. I've got my pot cozy, or my cozy that I use for my boiling bag meals, just kind of sitting on top of it, trying to trap a little bit of heat in there. Since it's snowing, I don't want that cold hitting the top of it and cooling it off. It did take a little bit more to get the stove going, especially since you fill it. So it's filled with carbon felt, and you fill it until you can visibly see fuel. And so getting liquid fuel, the yellow bottle heat ignited, especially when it's a little bit colder out, is kind of tough. So what I had to do was tip it a little bit and light the exposed carbon felt, let it warm it up a little bit while I was holding it, and then set it back down, and it got going. So it's burning, I think, a little bit cooler than it normally does, which isn't a bad thing for baking. However, with it being cold outside, I don't know how much heat is being lost outside of the pot. So I'm hoping that that cozy being on top keeps in a little bit more heat than normal, and we will find out. We'll find out. I don't know. I don't know how it'll work out, but it's been on there for about 5 minutes. I went ahead, boiled up some water using the BSR, just a little canister stove. Got myself some of that mango tea from Wild Zora. This is some pretty good stuff. I'm not a huge tea fan, but I actually really like this mango. And with it being, it's in the 20s with wind chill down about 20, 19 degrees. It's actually supposed to get down into the teens overnight. But for while I'm out here right now, this is hitting the spot, warming me up. Like I said, I've got that 0 degree incubator underneath me, so my butt is nice and warm right now, just sitting in here. So while that's going, it's gonna go for quite a while. I've got another 25 minutes before I'm even gonna take the top off to even look and determine whether or not I need to fill it up with some more fuel. I've got plenty of fuel with me, so that's not an issue. So it's kind of a check and see type thing, and we'll figure out where we're at. But I'm looking forward to some pizza for lunch. I thought I'd just take a quick minute and show you guys my view from the hammock. So I'm sitting here in the hammock, like I said, staying nice and warm. Down by my feet, I've got the MSR canister with the BRS stove on there. That's what I was warming up my water for my tea. Right here we've got the baking going on, and then here's the view from the hammock. First snow seen this season, and just makes for a really, really nice place to hang out and check out what's going on. All right, guys, I am kind of impatient, so I want to sneak a look and see what's going on inside of here. So let's look down in here and see. Oh, look at that. That's starting to look pretty good. You can see it's bubbling up on the sides. It's a little bit of golden brown. Let's put this back on so that it keeps the heat in there and we can keep this thing going. But I'm impressed. It has been about a half hour since I put it on. The stove is burned out. This thing has continued to bake just because I can feel the warmth on it. So let's open this thing up. Yeah. We've got ourselves a very nice looking pizza in here. Let me get this thing out of here and show you guys what we've got. So there is what we have inside. A nice pizza. So let's get this thing pulled out of this container. So I'm just going to use the end of my spoon to kind of separate it where it has stuck a little bit, which isn't very much. It's coming across. I think where the a little bit where the cheese got there is where it's kind of stuck. One little spot right there. All right, looks like once I get that piece, should be about ready to come out of there now. All right, I'm gonna take the gloves off because I don't want to get my gloves messy. Gloves are coming off, going behind me. Ooh, that's warm. That's warm. And friends, this is what we've got. Look at that. Look at the bottom of that. Not burned whatsoever. You've got a cheesy, completely done crust. I mean, it's a little bit thicker crust than I would normally go for, but you can see that it's done. Let's try it. That is a pepperoni pizza baked in the backcountry. Oh man. Yeah. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Nothing I would have changed. Honestly, I was a little bit nervous about this one, but there is nothing I would change about what I did with this one. One thing I might change is how much I brought out with me. I said I could probably do 3. I probably have enough in there to do 5 or 6 of this size. And given how thick this crust is, I could probably go a little bit thinner with the crust and stretch that out. Easy 6 pizzas out of what I brought out here. But that's part of the learning thing. I've never done this before. Wanted to come out, try this, and I am going to call this an absolute success. I'm going to go ahead and eat this, and then we'll talk a little bit more later, but I don't want this to get cold. It's cold out here, and it's too damn good to let it get cold. Man, you guys are missing out. Okay, so I finished up my pizza. I'm still enjoying a little bit of this hot tea, which even after 30 minutes in this is still pretty warm. I do like that mango tea. That is actually pretty nice on a day like today. So I wanted to show you guys, this is the stove. Let me set this down. This is the stove that I use to do this. This is the Mini Bull Design Turbo Gnome. Weighs about 14 grams, I believe, and then an extra, I don't know, 3 or 4 grams for the simmer ring, which the simmer ring just goes down and blocks these holes, which keeps it from blooming out the side. Only allows it to do the flames from the center. This is awesome for baking. Okay for boiling water like this. It takes a little bit longer, can be done, takes a little bit more fuel, but fill this thing up. You get about 20 to 30 minutes depending on the weather, depending on the wind. Today it's a little bit windy. It was somewhere around 23 minutes, 24 minutes that this went out. And then I let it sit for a little bit longer to finish the baking. Now let's talk about cleanup. Everything that I did was inside of bags, and for the most part, I didn't have to get my hands too dirty, with the exception of spreading on the, or spreading out the dough, which should have been a little less messy had I done the right ratio of water to flour mixture, which brings me to, if you're gonna do it, you can add in small amounts, mix it up. I wanted to just do it all because it is a little bit chilly out here today, and I didn't really want to be messing with it over and over and over again. A little bit of a mistake on my part, but it still turned out really well. So here's the inside of the pot, the actual baking pan afterwards, and you can see there's a few spots where there's stuff attached to the side. Honestly, I don't think that that's going to be all that difficult to get out of there. A lot of times when I do baking, I bring a small, like 2-inch by 2-inch square of Scotch-Brite, and that usually gets this stuff out really well. You can actually see a little bit of scrape marks on the side where I in the past have taken my spoon, and anything that's really hard to get off, just kind of chipped it off with my spoon and then use the Scotch-Brite, get it nice and clean, as long as you're using something on the inside. Now, I used Crisco. You could use butter, you could use lots of other things, you could use oils, or you could use parchment paper and keep the pot even cleaner. So I wanted to thank all of you guys for coming out, checking out this video. We wanted to put on something, show you guys that you don't always have to just boil water, dump it in a bag, and have a bland, boring meal out on the trail. If you are someone that wants to put a little bit more time, a little bit more thought into your meals, you can absolutely do something a little bit more over the top out on the trail. I did something that I really like. I love pizza, especially pepperoni pizza. So that's what I did on the trail. You guys do what you want to do. Figure out what things you could pack light enough to take out on the trail and have them be viable options for you. And I think you're going to love the change. You know, it isn't something that you want to do all the time. It takes a little bit more work, takes a little bit more prep time, a little bit more planning. But I think the outcome, what you end up with, is something much more enjoyable. And I think people take a little bit more pride in something that they've worked that hard to put together. Guys, it's a little bit chilly out here. It's a little bit snowy, and I'm gonna head down the trail. So I will see you guys down the trail.